and President Harold. I know they've been extremely supportive of playing this fall and worked extremely hard and certainly demonstrated their commitment towards playing this fall. And then most of all, our players, nobody's worked any harder and nobody's demonstrated more commitment to making that a reality than those guys. They've been here since June 8th, done a wonderful job in all regards. And, because of that, it's really disappointing for everybody. But that's where we're at right now. And, we learned of the decision today. So now we'll recalibrate, adjust, and see what we can do moving forward. But, we're going to all go through a period of disappointment and hurt here for a while. It's extremely frustrating, and it's a tough news to hear. But fully understand, appreciate the decision making, and we have to move forward from this point.
All right, we'll go ahead and start with some questions. David Eichel, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah, Kirk, I guess, what'd you kind of tell the team just shortly following? What was your message to them? And do you plan on going through with workouts and everything? I believe there's a 20-hour limit for the fall. Are you guys going to be participating in that?
Yeah, so a couple thoughts on that. First of all, just what I shared with you. Above everything, I'm just really disappointed for our players. Players, we talk to them all the time about how limited their clock is. It's such a small window of opportunity to play football, be it high school, college. And if you're fortunate enough to play beyond it, that's even tighter. So it's just disappointing because they've worked hard. They've done everything we could have asked them and then some, and they've done it in tough circumstances. So that part's, it's hard. And it's like losing a game. There's really nothing you can say to make anybody feel better. That is in a short window. That is what it is. Then as far as moving forward, you may know we canceled practice yesterday. We did it today as well. And it's not because we weren't committed to playing this season. My guess was, based on what I had heard, the earliest we'd play would be the 29th or the last week of September. And if so, I thought our guys needed a break. They've been going hard for quite some time, and we would pick it up again next week. But the other thing, I certainly didn't want to risk anybody getting injured practicing when we weren't sure about a season, what that was going to look like. So when we get back here, what I told the guys, our thoughts have been fully on this season, playing this fall, preparing for this fall. Start on September 5th or a later date. That was our focus and commitment. We'll process this. We'll figure out what a smart way to go about it is when the guys get back. Right now, I've encouraged them to take this week and next week away from football, and we'll get back here on the 24th, 25th, and start moving forward from that point.
John Bonenkamp, go ahead.
Yeah, Kirk, what was the players' reaction? I mean, obviously, they probably knew something like this was coming, but what was their reaction today?
Disappointment's the best word, certainly, but it's emotional. It's hard, and I know. For months now, I've heard fans. You're getting coffee or whatever. Hey, hope there's a season. Everybody you talk with, that's how they. It's been conveyed. Football is a big part of our life, especially here in the Midwest. College football, especially. But it doesn't mean more to anybody than the players. Nobody, and the coaches are right there with it. That is what we do. It's such a big part of our lives. But it's not life or death either. And this is probably a good reminder that we're facing something that's unprecedented in our history, at least in our lifetimes. So we're trying to deal with it, and I think that probably drove this final decision as much as anything. But all that being said, today will be a historic day, and it's a really disappointing day for everybody involved.
J.R. Ogden, go ahead. Are you on? Can't hear you, JR.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi, Coach. I know some of the players that indicated they started, kind of a group of we want to play over the weekend. I'm assuming that's still their feeling. They really want to go forward with the season.
It is, and that's kind of been the sense of our team. We've had a couple guys mulling, not playing. I know, and one I think was leaning very, very strongly towards that. But the majority of our guys have all along wanted to play. That's what they've been working for. They've demonstrated that more than talking about it, more than tweeting about it, or going on social media. They've been here day in and day out working in perilous circumstances, certainly. So I think that's the most important thing. And I'd say the same thing about Gary Bart and President Harold. To me, they've demonstrated that they were doing all they could to push this thing forward. That's a lot more meaningful than talking about it. And a lot of people are talking a lot right now. I don't mind telling you, I take a little bit of a personal offense to that, only in that talking about it doesn't mean it means more to you than people that aren't talking about it. I think it's more about how you do things and what you demonstrate through action. And our players have been above and beyond that way. They've all demonstrated, whether it's the decisions and being personally responsible away from the building, training in the building, and then most recently the last couple of weeks being out here practicing, with their teammates and just acting like good teammates, all those kinds of things. So I've been watching it now since June 8th, what our team's done. I've been watching that in person. That's been very, very impressive to me, and it makes it that much more disappointing that we have to deliver bad news to them today.
All right, Scott Docterman, go ahead.
Yeah, Kirk, thanks for doing this. I guess, my question is, some sort of a spring season. I mean, you talked about this 3 or 4 months ago that it's going to screw up 2021 season as well, because to play 12 games and a bowl game per se in the spring, and then the same type of scenario in the fall, that's just physically, I think that it's such a demanding sport. It's kind of hard to do that. Is it too early right now to even discuss how the spring would progress if you're able to even play that part of the year?
Yeah, I think it is too early. And I'll add to this. I've been on a lot of Zoom calls now with the coaches and athletic directors. And to my recollection, I can't remember us ever talking about, what the spring would look like. So again, all the focus has been strictly on making, what can we do to get to the field this fall? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be 10 games, 12 games? We never really had discussion about less than that. So everything's been focused on that now. Unfortunately, we have a lot of time to recalibrate and just try to, talk about it in an intelligent fashion. But yeah, to your point, I think when we look at the spring, we have to look at the entire calendar year for 2021. And I'm sure that'll be where the discussions all begin. But we've got time to think about it. And I think that'll be the next item of business is what can it look like? And then how do we get to work on making it become a reality?
Scott Reister, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can hear you. Yep.
Sorry about that. Nebraska coach Scott Frost yesterday said that even if the Big Ten cancels, they still are going to try to play. Is there any thought of that happening at Iowa?
It's easy to say things in life. It's another thing to say them and then do them. And, we haven't said anything about that. I'm only one person speaking. I'll defer to Gary Barter, our director of athletics, and President Harold. It's probably more appropriate, but just as a coach in this conference, it's my 31st year in the conference. And I've always, one of the reasons I've been here 31 years, or at least involved in Big Ten play, Big Ten, I've got great respect for what the conference stands for. I think also being in a conference, it's important that we're together. And, we discuss things independently. I think it goes without saying every coach wanted to play this fall. I can tell you, again, based on personal experience, each and every one of our players, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, were committed through demonstrated action that they wanted to play this fall. The way it turned out, that's not going to happen. So now we're refocusing on what the next step can be. And, we, to my knowledge, have had no discussion about doing anything against what the conference decides. And as much as we may want to, that just, the the conference has made a decision. We're going to abide by that unless they reconsider.
Chad Leistico.
Hey, Coach. Sorry about the news. What it seemed like communication was maybe lacking from leaders or whatever. What was your view on what maybe could have been done better in terms of being fair to the players and everything like that?
I can only speak from one person's perspective. We've had continual communication with our athletic directors. Gary and I have open lines of communication. We talk frequently, especially as you might imagine through a period like this. So we've been in constant communication. I appreciate the access we've had to visiting with coaches and athletic directors together. It's been routine and regular. I think it's been communicative. And the conference office is involved in that as well. So, I can only speak to my experiences. I think it's been healthy. But ultimately, I also have learned in life, there's a chain of command. And I'm certainly not a medical expert. And I think, whether it's national or whether it's state, or in this case, campus or conference, there are certain things that right now I think the presidents and the medical experts have responsibility for. And ultimately, I think, they really are the ones who have the best vantage point about what does make sense for our campus and what makes sense for our conference. So, those decisions, I feel confident that all the input was taken from football coaches, athletic directors, but ultimately somebody has to make decisions. And I think that's what's happened here. And it was done as a conference. So I doubt it was unanimous. I doubt that, but it rarely does happen where things are unanimous. And, but I feel confident there was healthy discussion, and hopefully, this proves to be the wisest decision.
Mark Friend, do you have a question there?
I do, Kirk. Sorry about the news. You've talked a little bit about the players. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence was a big one in kind of advocating for this season. And one of the important points that he noted seemed to be that he thought, and I think a lot of the majority of the players thought, that they would be safer in your relative bubble than they would be in their home environments, in their classrooms, et cetera. What's your feeling on that? Do you agree with that statement? And I guess how much have your players spoken about that aspect of it, that they feel that we should be playing simply for the fact that they should be in your relative bubble?
I think that reflects how a lot of our players feel, especially based on today's meeting as well. So, I do think that's definitely how our guys feel. And I don't disagree with that. I guess I think if you look at bigger picture, there are two things that we don't know right now. The NBA, from my vantage point, has the best of all worlds, right? They do have a true bubble. And that to me is the best way to ensure you're going to have a chance to really move forward without interruption. I think the reality of a college football team with 100+ players makes that a little different challenge. The fact that our players aren't professional makes it a different challenge. And then the other thing we haven't witnessed yet, we haven't seen a contact sport actually play on a routine basis, practice and play. And I think that's the missing element right now that we don't have, hard data on. So as much as baseball probably closely reflects what we're talking about duplicating at this point, the numbers involved in Major League Baseball compared to a college football team aren't comparable. And baseball is not a contact sport for the most part. So, but I think, their players being exposed to, just the other things that are out there in normal society, probably a little bit of a parallel there. But this, obviously this is a really complex equation. And again, nobody's got that hard data on it because nobody's ever tried to do what we're talking about doing.
Rick Coleman, do you have a question? All right, let's move ahead. Michael Bryan.
Yeah, can you hear me, Coach?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thanks for doing this again. I apologize for the news. How hard was it for you to keep your optimism over the last 6 days, knowing that it was 6 days ago that the conference released the schedule? It seemed like things were going to be, obviously in this day and age, things can change day by day, as we've now seen. But how did it change for you when the MAC decided, which seemed like it was the first domino to fall, when the MAC decided to not play? How did that affect your optimism? And in the last 72 hours since from the Big Ten schedule being released, did you kind of see it as writing on the wall, or how hopeful were you?
Yeah, as it pertains to the MAC making their announcement on Saturday, I believe it was Saturday, that really didn't surprise me totally. And, but I think all of us had confidence, at least with the Big Ten announcing the schedule last Wednesday. The thing that made sense about it was we had wiggle room. We had an ability to push to September 26th, or perhaps even as far back as October 3rd. So I guess my assumption or presumption might have been that, I thought the first step might be a delay, and we were prepared for that. Again, that tied into our thinking about not practicing yesterday or today. But, for whatever reason, this is the decision we've come up with. And again, I'm sure it's based on really good information from very smart people. So, that is where we're at today, and it's disappointing to say the least. But we'll get our feet on the ground, we'll deal with it, and try to move forward the best we can.
Steve Batterson. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Steve.
Kirk, thanks for taking the time. Yeah, given the uncertainty of the past week, has there been a different feel as you've interacted with your players as opposed to maybe previous camps?
Yeah, camp's been different because we were supposed to put pads on, I think, Sunday, and didn't do that. But I can't say again enough about our players. They've been, they've really been unflappable through this whole time. It is weird to, we've all got masks on most of the time when we're in the building. That's strange. You can't get past that. And we're not eating together. All those kinds of things, the things that are great about football. But the guys, their attitudes have been great. We're on the field. It is weird when guys have masks on the field. That's really weird. But their attitudes have been great. They've been positive. Young people are really amazing in that realm, and I think that's really what you enjoy as a coach is seeing how young people, just how vibrant they are, and pretty much how resilient they are. But today was a tough day for them. It's been tough for all of us. But we'll all get through this, and they'll get through this. I'm confident of that. And we'll just figure out a way to deal with it. But they've been great to that point. They've been practicing, doing things really well with a great attitude, and I can't compliment them enough. They've really been great. And this goes back to March 13th when we left campus. They've found a way to meet every challenge, and that's a great thing about youth. And we'll work our way through this thing too. We'll figure it out. We'll just keep pushing forward. But there's going to be a period of disappointment. We're all going to go through that.
Thanks.
Yep.
Mark Woodley, do you have a question? Not sure if he's still on here. Tom Caker, go ahead.
Hey, Kirk, thanks for doing this. Was there any time in the past 24 hours where you kind of thought maybe this was, it seemed like it was dead in the water maybe a day ago, but then yesterday, maybe in the evening, it felt like maybe it was turning again?
Well, you're always optimistic. You're always hopeful. And I think, again, based on the announcement of the schedule last week, I think probably all of our hopes were that, we'd get a delay, push it back 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then see what things looked like, see what the landscape looked like. And, I'm not sure what details went into the decision, the final decision that got made. But all of us realized, too, that was a possibility, a distinct possibility. And it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being the way it goes for all of college football, but that remains to be seen. But I'm guessing the fact that we made this decision, there's probably some very compelling reason for that and some reasons for that. So we'll play it out. But as it pertains to us, yeah, it's disappointing, but it's reality.
All right. I know I can't see everyone on here on one screen. Others who want to have a question to follow up here with Coach?
Steve, I'd hop in.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, Kirk, I know you said that you need to look at the framework of what 2021 would look like with regard to the spring season. I don't want to back you into a corner here, but just your gut feeling, is it realistic, do you think, at this moment in time to play in the spring?
I think so. Yeah, I think we can do anything we want if we do it intelligently. And we got to be first and foremost, like everything else, got to think about our players, what's best for them. But I think it's totally doable. We may be playing in some colder games, but we were looking at that in December anyway. If we had slid the schedule. So we've played in the Midwest. We've played in cold games. That's not the biggest issue in the world, but I think it's certainly doable. We have to be realistic about it, and then I think we'll also have to look at it in terms of spring and fall combined. So it'll be a different approach than ever before, but what we've gone through has already proven to be very different. So it's just all matters, right? Good minds getting together, talking about things, and throwing them up on the wall and see what looks like, and then reshaping and just pushing forward. There's got to be an answer to it.
All right. Do we have others with questions?
Hey, Coach.
Yep.
What are the financial ramifications, just the huge scope of this decision that was made today?
Yeah, I think every step of the way has been impacted, starting with the discontinuation of basketball. It started back in March. So, I'm not an expert on that topic. That'd be more Gary's department, certainly. But, it's much has already been written about it, and it's been common knowledge for a long time. There's a huge financial impact. But all that being said, let's just say the whole thing shut down for an entire year. College sports will come back. They may look different after this time period. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There's going to be some impact that way. But college sports will come back. They'll return, and at some point we'll be up and running again. I hope, especially for the sake of our student athletes, I hope it's sooner than later, and we can get them back doing what they love to do, which is preparing and competing.
William Bender, you have a question? Go ahead, William.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Coach. I know you've probably been asked this a few times with the spring season, but what is it that much of a potential drawback to ask a student athlete to come in the spring and play and then go back and do a second season in the fall? That's almost unheard of in terms of not just this sport, but almost any sport. Is that possible to ask an athlete to do that?
I think it's possible. I think we'd have to be really smart, and we'll have to certainly alter the way we go about it. So if this becomes a reality, which that's the next thing up on the board, first challenge is to get our guys ready for a spring to play in the spring. I don't think that's a huge challenge. But then what you do after the spring season's ended, and then how that pertains to the next fall, the adjustments you'd make in the fall, and then how you train to get ready for that. Obviously, it'll look different than it's ever looked before. But those are things I think if it's given thought and we do it in a smart way, for sure it can be done.
Matt Randazzo, do you have a question? No? All right. Mr. Brockway, do you have a question?
Yeah, Coach, another hypothetical involving spring, it does possibly open up the door for early enrollees. And I don't know what kind of player it would take for someone to be physically ready, but could you see a possibility of an early enrollee contributing if there is a spring season?
It's a possibility. First of all, they'll have to make a ruling on that. I assume it's legal, but as you probably know, a lot of fall sports have been affected too in high schools. So there may be more early enrollees than ever. All these things are unprecedented, everything that's going on right now. So I think as we look forward in the coming months here, those are questions all of us are going to have to get answered. You may see more senior players leaving too as a result of this, although I know the NFL has the capability of sliding their draft back. They can slide things back. They can make adjustments. My guess is they will if it ends up being spring football. So there are a lot of questions that remain to be answered right now. And, the bad news, I guess, is we have plenty of time to figure that out. But, those are things that are going to be up on the discussion board as we move forward.
Adam Rittenberg, did you have a question?
Yeah, hey, Kirk, I was just wondering, how much guidance do you guys need now from the league and others as coaches going forward? That's been one thing I've heard, complaints from around the country that we haven't gotten enough to tell our guys. We need to have more leadership. We need to have more guidance. I know that's your role in a sense, but how much now that the decision's been made do you need from the Big Ten or others just to inform your players and inform what you guys would be doing here going forward?
Well, it's always important, and as we move forward right now, as it pertains to football, obviously, we have to figure out what the rules are going to be in the spring, or excuse me, the fall, and thoughts about preparing in the spring. If I was the commissioner of the world in sports, at least, I think it'd be nice to see unity in college football, not to rate each other's rosters, block transfers, things of that nature, at least in the coming month, just until the landscape settles a little bit. But, that may be naive in my thinking, but you'd like to think everybody would just kind of be respectful of everybody's positions right now and, let everybody figure out what the path is as we move forward.
Thank you.
For those of you typing, if you could mute your screen while you're typing. Howard Griffith, did you have a question? No, maybe not. Okay. David, you had a follow-up question?
I did too, Steve.
Yep. Go ahead, David.
Hey, Kirk, just going back to the early enrollees, I know there are a couple of kids that were currently planning on early enrolling into the program. With a long way out there, but would you, so they wouldn't have to potentially waste the redshirt season, or how do you think your staff's going to go about that?
I kind of lost part. Can you repeat the last part of the question?
Yeah, I just would you discourage the kids who are going to be an early enrollee from early enrolling now, just because you wouldn't want to waste their redshirt season potentially?
Our policy with that has been if players are really compelled to do it, we let them enroll early. We don't encourage it necessarily, but if they choose to do it, that's up to them. Then I haven't really thought this out at all. So we're thinking while we're talking. So the 2021 spring season, I don't know if it's going to be 4-game license, for redshirting. I would hope that would remain, and that would give guys potential access to playing. So we'll just have to see all that unfolds and what the interpretations are. But right now it's kind of an open book.
And Scott Docterman, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, I did. And, Kirk, in the last couple of years, you had a few players that probably fit that profile of skipping a year and becoming first rounders or high draft picks. You certainly have draftable players. I'm not sure that today they would be first rounders. They probably need a season to show that kind of capability. Do you anticipate any kind of conversations with some of your players who are draftable probably, but maybe need that extra season in order to lift their stock? And do you expect all of your players to return and play in the spring?
Yeah, I can't answer that last part. I think that's up to, players are going to have to sift this out as we go along too. I think all of us figured out a couple of weeks ago, maybe long before that there was a strong potential that, surefire number 1 picks may opt out this season. I think we saw some of that taking place over the last couple of weeks, and we may see more of that in the future. That one totally surprised me. And then as far as, what it's going to look like in the spring, I think those are things now, the next couple of weeks. I'm sure some players, not only in our program, but all programs, are going to think that out a little bit. Obvious question, what's the NFL going to do with the draft? Are they going to keep it in April? Are they going to push it back a couple months? I've been told they have that flexibility. So I think that would weigh into a player's thinking as well. But, those are things that I'm sure as we move down the road here a little bit are going to be thought about and discussed.
We've got time for just a couple more. Anybody else need to have a question here? All right.
Yeah, Steve, I have a quick question. Kirk, you worked under these protocols since June. Could this season have worked with everything that you had to do with spacing and wearing masks and distancing and all that? How difficult would this season have been?
Both things I'll share with you. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I've never claimed to be smart. Certainly not smarter than anybody else that I deal with. But two obvious things came to mind during the pre-June period when we were all, first of all, I really felt whenever we got back here, the safest time for our players would be under our guidance. And when I say ours, not necessarily coaches. I mean, we don't know anything about anything, but the people that set up the protocol. You know, we weren't going to be allowed back in the building without medical experts saying, here's how we're going to do things. Here's how we'll train. Here's how we'll do this, this, and this. So yeah, I've always believed the safest time for our players is when they're with us because it's a controlled environment, especially during these times. But it also dawned on me a long time ago, again, not being a medical expert, but at some point in football, you're going to have 22 bodies out there on a field with people in close quarters and coming in contact, not all 22 at once, but the potential for contact was going to be high. So unlike playing professional golf or driving race cars or some of the things that we've seen on TV, you know, football is a very different sport. How that equates to, you know, the disease and communication of the virus, you know, I'm not smart enough to answer that question, but obviously I think that's a big concern in the medical community. And that's the one thing that we haven't done yet. We haven't had contact practice. So I feel like our practices have been pretty safe. I feel like, you know, and our medical people have watched. You know, I don't think that's been the issue, but the big question was what happens when we start actually having contact on a routine basis. And that's the nature of football. So, and I think that's a question the NFL is going to find out. But at least they have a little bit better control. But nonetheless, it's a question that's going to have to be answered. And so I don't think anybody's got that answer yet. I really don't. But yeah, I do agree that at least when the guys were in our building, you know, we had a chance to make sure it was, you know, the building's clean, everybody's doing the things they're supposed to do to take precaution.
All right. I think with that, Coach has to get to a meeting, so we appreciate everyone today. Again, sorry for the short notice, but thanks for joining in, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time very much.
Thanks, folks. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks.